So I don't know if you're aware or not, but the noose is tightening around tipsters in the industry. We recently had Sky Bet close their affiliate program because of all this news. Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. So yeah, tipsters have been getting a lot of grief recently. The press has suddenly picked up on the fact that tipsters make money by people placing losing bets. Whoa! That's a shock, isn't it? That tipsters don't actually make money. But, you know, tipping has been going on for time eternity. And back when I first dabbled in the gambling industry a fair few years ago, you would get tipsters, either you would subscribe to a tipping service or you would dial a premium rate phone number and they would give you tips, and then you go and place the bet on it and you'd lose your money that way instead of losing it a little bit easier nowadays. But you know, tipping didn't work back then, it doesn't work now. And back then they used to sort of have a semi-legitimate excuse saying that no bookmaker would take my bets, because that did used to happen. If you used to win a lot of money, then bookmakers would want to turn you away because you'd probably had some inside info, and you'd win more money out of them than they would really like. So there was a sort of semi-legitimacy there. But if you look nowadays, that cannot happen, because you go to an exchange, if the money's there, and there can be pretty significant money, especially on football, then why not just place a bet there? Nobody's going to turn you away. You can see the price, you can take the price or not. You know, why don't you just do it? And back in the old days, it was difficult to get a documented record, but nowadays, of course, you have an absolutely beautifully documented record with an exchange. The exchange can show all of the transactions, all of the bets, and you get a lifetime profit calculation as well if you're that successful. So it's important to realize that really, if you're looking at any tipping service, you have to question why they would give that information away, because surely all you do is scale and scale and scale and scale until it's scaled no longer, and then maybe you'd find a neat angle of which to do something in there. So there are large syndicates that have exploited the exchange opportunity. There are 5 or 6 in London. And they're all about putting on the largest bet that they can, given the edge that they have. And they do very well from it, thank you. They do not have a tipping service. But where the scandal has come around is because you've got people like, so the biggest margin product a bookmaker has are accumulators. And there is no exchange service for multiples stroke accumulators. And as a consequence, they're very margin rich. And if you recommend a wild accumulator at something like 300, 400, 500 to 1 or something, you get very nice juicy returns. You can say to people, yeah, have a go at this. But when you place that bet and it loses, then the tipper gets a big slice of that money, fairly significant chunks. And that's what the press have picked up on. The press have picked up that people are deliberately recommending losing bets in order to gather a big chunk of commission off of those losers, which is immoral. But also, you know, there are fixed tennis match, fixed football match sort of services, for want of a better word, that are all a sham as well. So they're sort of saying, oh, you know, we've got knowledge here and you need to get involved in this right now. And yet these guys are just scamming, basically. They don't have information. They just want you to place a bet through their affiliate link, of which they'll get a nice big chunk of commission. So yeah, you know, the legislation, the noose is tightening at this particular moment in time. And the press have picked up on it, and Sky Bet had to drop their affiliate campaign because they just didn't want anything to do with it. Betfair sent out a mailer recently as well to talk about how you should conduct yourself if you're an affiliate, and if you're in breach of any of those things, then you'll be out. So the noose is tightening around a lot of these things, and quite rightly too as well, because, you know, fair enough, if you're trying to make money or you're trying to offer some value add, then I can see some sort of reason why you maybe should earn a commission. But if you're just recommending losing bets, then that is totally unethical. But you know, I think this is the thing that the industry suffers from overall, is that it's generally considered to be unethical, right from one end to the other. And if you look at trading now, when I first started, there were no traders, and nobody was really willing to talk about it. There were probably only a handful of people. But you look out there now, and you could be forgiven for thinking that there's hundreds of thousands of traders out there doing it all full time. And of course, the capacity in the market tells you that that cannot be true. And you know I've seen some of the numbers. of the structure behind all of this industry, and you know that it's definitely not true. But that doesn't stop people from offering all sorts of crazy systems and advice and stuff like that. So, you know, I've often been contacted via YouTube from people who've been ripped off, and they've paid $1,000 or $2,000 for something, and they said, oh, I paid $1,000 or $2,000 for this, but it doesn't seem to be working. Can you have a look? So I've looked at them, and it's like, oh no, this is a real, you know, you've been totally done over here. So I've spoken to Action Fraud. I did have a chat with the Met Police a little while ago. The Vice and Fraud Squad is where gambling used to sit under. I don't know if it still does now. Because, you know, some of these things are outright fraud. They're saying things that simply are not true to get people's money. And for me, there's no grey area there. It's fraud. If you say that you're doing something, or that you're selling something on the basis that it will do something, and it doesn't, then that's fraud. And, you know, maybe it will take a couple of really big cases to shake the industry up. But I would welcome that. I think that people should be brought to book when they try and offer services or advice that they can't back up with fact. And that's always been something that's really important to me. I've kept really carefully detailed records over all the years that I've been trading to prove that I am actually doing it, and there is logic and method behind it. And, you know, not everybody's going to win at trading, that's impossible, but nonetheless there is an opportunity there. But when I look at the trading marketplace now, there are so many advisory services or people trying to offer advice that quite clearly do not trade, and to my mind that's fraud as well. I don't have a problem with people offering advice, but I think that if you position yourself as a professional, or you elevate yourself to a high status, then you have to have something to back it up. You know, I think that having some method or process that allows you to identify that there is some just cause for you making those claims would really clear up the entire industry. So, you know, I don't think it's going to happen though, to be honest. But ask difficult questions. They may not be able to, because there's no method or process for doing stuff. You know, I think people will struggle to come back with anything, but ask the question anyway. You know, if they come out and lie, and then it's subsequently proved that they were lying, then that's a bit of a serious issue there. And I really think that there should be some sort of way of, or some attempt to do that, because getting people to part with money for something that's not true, in my eyes, is fraud. And maybe it'll take a couple of big cases to really reform the industry, but maybe that's what is required. But anyway, you know, that's what's happening in the industry at the moment. Affiliates are coming under attack because they're recommending losing bets, and the legislation is tightening. It would be nice to see that broadened across the whole industry where possible. So yeah, interesting times.